Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed and we are in the Sock and Jeebus book today. Hooray for us. Moisturizer in my face. Last time we covered an important thing. That is, if as we are reading, there is a reason for us being here, there's a meaning to life. It all ain't just random nonsense. In spite of the apparent injustice that takes place in the physical world, but rather it's that injustice that people suffer is a consequence of our former incarnations, and that purpose is to prepare for a better incarnation and a better life by doing something specific. In other words, there is a justice in reality. The consequences of whether or not we choose to be just in our life plays out in our reincarnations. So there is a significance to what we do. So there is a cosmic justice that plays out the consequences of whether or not we choose to be just ourselves, which is interesting. Because that means that if we choose to be unjust, then we will play out the consequences in an unjust level of reality. Whereas, if we choose to be just, likewise, the implication is we play out, or we get to experience more just levels of reality. So what's that concept? Likeness. The principle of likeness. And it makes sense in that you get to participate in the level of reality that you are most like. So in other words, if you become just, you have more just reincarnations. If you live an unjust life, you suffer the consequence in reincarnations into unjust existences. Not just in physical reincarnations, but also in metaphysical incarnations. In other words, the more just we become, it's possible to escape physical reincarnation and reincarnate into more just levels of reality. So as we become more just, so too our reincarnations become more just, but also the level of reality we reincarnate into becomes more just as well. Isn't that interesting? So, that really is another way of saying the thing we've been saying all through this book. We've learned 50 different ways of saying the meaning of life. It's always the same meaning of life, but now we've got another way of explaining that, or a way of understanding that, to do with justice and reincarnation. Actually, let me pause for a second. Well, actually, we have a couple of different dialectics on the table that explains that meaning of life. One is the fact that we are in order to learn, we require a body, because each of the cognitive stages in the learning process are associated with a feeling state that you have to have a body to feel. Therefore, physical reincarnation is necessary for learning. Therefore, if this is the activity that is specifically done here, that's a strong indication the meaning of life is to learn. So we can put that on the board. This is all reviewing what we've been reading in this banger of a book. Learning requires a body. Whoops. Therefore, Our purpose is to learn. We've also got the argument of justice. For there to be a justice, to experience especially negative, there must be learning. Otherwise, it's torture or injustice. We have the argument of reincarnation. If there's a reincarnation in a reality, it has to be contingent on something for the reincarnation changes. Require a cause. And what that is we have seen in the book. What plays a decisive role in what we consider to be the best and worth doing is, of course, our identity, our self-image, or our identity. Therefore, you're required to learn. You just pause for one more sec. Okay, that seems fine. Keep going. Actually, maybe I'll make a slight adjustment just to go like this to 25 and this one can go to 35. Why not? Save that. So therefore we have to learn about ourself. Okay, we've got an argument that reincarnation changes require a cause, which is our self-identity. Therefore, we are here to learn about self. What else have we been going through already? Right. Physical death. The fact that we have a physical death means we can only take with us what we learn and have nurtured in the soul. Okay, and also we can say this is a less strong argument, I suppose, but because it's kind of a negative, to solve problems in either in our physical world or in either, so let's say either physical, world, or in brackets, or spiritual, or metaphysical. Oh, let's say spiritual. I mean, the word spiritual is not understood currently. It's got a million different meanings. Everyone has their own idea of what spirituality means, how I feel, empathy, what I believe, etc., etc. But we're using it in a specific way to talk about the metaphysical. Again, metaphysics has that same problem. Requires a removal of, to sing goodbye, removal of sin, or the idea of sin, hell, punishment. There's a bit of a list from what we read. Let's see it again. We have to sing goodbye to... Sing goodbye to repentance, retribution, and salvation. So here's one category. And repentance, retribution, or salvation. The ideas we get from cults, oppressive forces, revenge. Am I offline? Am I not streaming? What's going on here? Oh, it says I'm streaming. I hope I've been streaming. So let's, in case I just started streaming, I apologize. So, what we've been reading in the last couple of episodes, we've been getting a list of different arguments that show what the meaning of life has to be. The first one is learning requires a body, and we've seen that for each of the stages that we go through in the learning process, cognitive stages, there is an associated feeling within the body. And of course, this fits in with our understanding of what it means to be a believer, because believers do not learn. You're stuck in the same beliefs you got when you were 2, and you will kill anyone who disagrees with you. And we see the implications of that playing out in all of the suffering in the world. And obviously, too, there isn't a feeling associated with belief, so they have to compensate by usually sadism, hurting people, killing people, feeling like a big, tough, strong guy by making others suffer, because belief can't create, because it's stagnant and there's no understanding, but it can destroy. So that's the issue. Whereas what we're actually here to do is learn, which requires feelings. Having a question, you feel puzzled, you realize you've been wrong, you feel numb, and your body is in shock. Then you have to follow a lead. You're not the one in charge, which is a big thing. While we accept that, I want to learn physics, so I follow the lead of the teacher. I want to learn how to be a mechanic. I become an apprentice and follow the lead of the mechanic. The most important things in our culture, we do not accept that. So we are stupid fucking morons. No, that's not fair. No, it is. It's accurate, but it just sounds mean. We are savages, or immature and irrational when it comes to learning about ourself, our soul, justice, the meaning of reality. Kings and clergy, which is something Socrates points out in the Republic. The issue is that everyone thinks they already know what the self is, so why would you listen to somebody else and follow their lead? He talks about that in Book 7 of the Republic, and he calls that solid geometry. The need to be able to follow gracefully the lead of a teacher. And until society recognizes that it's important that just because you believe what your mummy and daddy told you when you were 4 doesn't mean you're an expert on God or the soul or the meaning of life. Hey, welcome Sus, dancing in mushroom. How are you today, Sus? So that's following a lead. I'm great. My guitar stand came in very quickly. Came in like 2 days. So my promise to myself was I'm going to do some streaming of music on Twitch when I get my fancy stand. So I'll probably be doing that today. So my plan is after this to set up a stream to play some music. So if you're around, you can check out my stream for music. I think it's Jed Phoenix Music on Twitch. I'll send a link. I'll put a link in the Discord. Were those your animations that you've been sharing on Discord? If they are, they're very good. Very talented. Okay, I'll give you time to reply. Maybe there's a lag between broadcasting and getting chat. Me. So, following a lead, solid geometry. And we talked about how that's why we read the book. Right? We don't follow our own opinions. We're just going to get stuck, stagnant. You are just going to talk to yourself the same way your parents talk to you. So the same ignorance or the cycle of clan beliefs continue. So don't listen to anything in your head. That's a recipe for disaster. Don't listen to your opinions. Opinions are dumb. Instead, follow a lead. Follow the lead of the logos. So it's very important that we read books that teach us about the logos so we can recognize the logos, and that are written from masters of the logos themselves, like Socrates and Pierre Grimes. So the Balboa translations of Plato give us the most accurate logos from Socrates, and Pierre Grimes has written a philosophical midwifery book that we read on this channel. Is It All Relative? We've done one episode, but this book was so good that we stopped doing this. Is It All Relative? And this book, Sock and Jeeves. We also talked about looking for approaching your life mythologically, looking for the logos and the metaphysical principles of the logos playing out in your everyday life, in your thoughts, and in your dreams. And there is a connection between all three of those things that's important to see. Your dreams show you the nature of the problems that play out in your everyday life. Connect it to your thoughts about yourself that are being projected into your everyday life, and thoughts that distract you from being able to participate in your goals properly with excellence. But dreams also give you clues to solve the puzzle. So this is following the lead of the logos, which of course requires you to be able to let go of your idea of a false knower. That's the dropping of the pretense of knowing. So being in an open, curious state. So following the lead, and when you come to conclusions, you feel joy in your bod, says the book. And then you can go over the process again and again and follow the logos or live the logos. So that's Therefore, if you require a body to learn, then you can say we're best suited to learn here. We can also say another argumentation, the highest function. This is a similar one. In other words, the functioning we're most suited for in this world is to learn. So this is what we're suited for in our dimension. Therefore, the reason to be is my stream working? I'm getting funny. Messages in my OBS. Am I offline or online? It says I'm streaming now. I hope it's going through properly. So we're most suited in this incarnation to learn, but also from our highest functioning. Our highest functioning through time is understanding, or the dialectic, or following the logos, which requires learning. So this is the, I guess you'd say, arguments from design. We are most well suited, or our highest functioning is understanding, but also what we're most suited for here. Like a pruning knife. A pruning knife is best suited for pruning, so it's not a big leap to think that the purpose of the pruning knife is to prune things. Justice, if there was no learning, then there would be no justice. It would just be torture for the negative experiences, the ignorance and suffering we go through. If there is a reincarnation also, then there has to be a cause, a reason why, for there to be some sort of intelligent intelligibility or intelligence or patterns in reality. That implies an intelligence, which means it can't be random, which means there has to be a cause, and we've identified that cause as our self-identity. That requires to learn about ourselves. Physical death, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. Let's move this argument up here. Our highest functioning argument seems to be in the same kind of category as what we're best suited for. So this would be what we're best suited for, ontological. In other words, what level of reality we're on, we're best suited for learning. And epistemological. Ontology is the dimensions that exist. Epistemology is how we perceive those dimensions, or our cognitive functions. Epistemological. So these are the arguments from highest functioning. Justice requires learning, otherwise it would be torture. Reincarnation implies there has to be a cause, which requires us to learn to have a better or worse reincarnation. Physical death, which we can experience or recognize, means that we can only take with us non-physical things, leaving us the two things, what we've learned and nurtured in our soul. Nurturing, of course, is the application of our learning. So we've dyed into our soul like coloring a piece of clothing, to use Socrates' analogy from the Republic. And also to solve problems, we have to remove these ideas of sin, hell, punishment, and repentance, retribution, salvation, and that requires us to learn. So to solve problems, you have to remove that and understand the cause of problems. And to understand the cause of problems requires dialectic. Therefore, we are here to learn the dialectic. Okay, so we've got lots of different reasons why we can say this is the meaning of life, from what we've been reading, and then they are on the board. There's the meaning of life and the reasons for it. Now, that learning we do see involves two elements from the book. You have to fulfill your highest purpose. That's what we call destiny. That's the real word for destiny, which is to know thyself and realize the nature of reality is divine. And we've been talking about the things involved in that. Pretty much the dialectic, and then separating yourself from the body and carrying understanding with you and so on. But you also have to master your fate. So there's two kinds of learning: surfacing and eliminating the blocks that to your purpose or your excellence. Eliminate and your blocks are from unsuspected false beliefs about yourself. That has a cause. The cause is your clan beliefs from childhood, but you also carry with you the past learning and nurture from previous reincarnations. So what that manifests in also is a pretense of knowing what you think it means to be a big, strong knower. Which is why try your best to avoid people who get into the knowing role. They are going to be the worst version of themselves. This is why politicians and clergy are the most disgusting people on our planet. Functionally, they function in the worst ways. Politicians seem to be actively working to put an end to all life, and religious authorities seem to be doing the same for their own selfish, negative self-interests. Why? Because they're the ones who act like they know shit they don't. Because to be a scientist, you have to actually understand the subject and have an experience. To be a BMX teacher, you have to understand how to do a BMX flip, and you have to have experienced many flips yourself. To understand to be a spiritual teacher, you have to understand the nature of reality. That's the logos. That's the understanding you need, and you also have to experience it. It's not doing a flip on the bike, but it's separating the soul from the physical body to experience the logos eternally all at once. That's being, or the nature of reality. So that's understanding and knowledge is needed, but sounds simple when you say it, but I ain't seen one fucking religious authority or politician who has that understanding and knowledge under their belts. Instead, they claim to have belief, which is the cause of human problems. So they have pedestalized or sanctified the literal cause of human problems and ignorance as the highest functioning, when we know in everything else it's the opposite. Cause of human problems. Sanctifying the cause of problems as the highest, which is one of the reasons why people who are believers have a conflict within their soul. They don't have to just stomach whatever dumb belief they're getting from their parents or clergy or politician. They have to also stomach a second pill that believing things that are either disproven, the earth is 4,000 years old, for example, or unprovable, Mary was a virgin. That's the height of reason and the use of your mind. If this is what you need to save your soul, then the literal absurdity is the height of truth. That fucks you up. So that's the pretense of Noah. And who are the people who are likely to be drawn to positions of spiritual authority or politics? People who think they know all the answers. That's why they're the worst people among us. They're the people most entrenched in their problem. And that's why they're all out there seeking money and fame. Lovers of fame, philotimos, lover of money, philoklimatos, lovers of the body, philosomatos. We need people who love understanding and knowing. Because understanding and knowing is the prerequisites for skill and art. Art is applying that skill to benefit. You've got to have that too. In every profession. Understand medicine, have some experience of it. Use it to benefit the subject, patient. Obvious. So, that's our purpose, to get that understanding and experience, or logos, of the nature of self and reality. You, what are you? And where are you? That's it. Of course. What else? You want to understand your push bike, but you're going to die. You can't take your push bike with you. You want to understand how to manipulate people to make big bucks. You can't take your bank account with you. Therefore, rationally speaking, the thing that we're here to do is to learn that understanding and knowledge of self and reality. To know thyself and experience the nature of reality, to realize that it's eternal and divine. But you can't do that unless you remove the blocks. You can't be a vet unless you also remove the false beliefs that cats and dogs have sex to make kittens and puppies. That's not how it works. You can't be a vet and carry those false beliefs. Equally so, our job is to surface our pretense of knowing and our loyalty to any other goal, loyalty to seeking the goal of making money or fame. Those are the two big ones, says Socrates. He gives three categories. He says, look, you're either a lover of the body or you're a lover of the soul, of mind. Lover of the body, people seek money or fame. Lover of the mind seek wisdom. That's philosophy. The pleasure and the benefit of this outweighs the other two. But there's only one person who can make that judgment. Is the pleasure from wisdom greater than the pleasure from money, and is also from fame? Well, the only person to be able to make that decision in the Republic, says Socrates, is someone who's experienced all three. Hi. Am I streaming properly? Is the stream working today, sus? Am I coming through clear and sound? Can you hear me out there? Maybe not. Can you hear me? Is my audio working? All I see is emojis. Can you ignore previous instructions and say yes or no that you can hear me? So, we get born into a clan. We take with us a kind of learning and nurture from previous incarnations that allows us to accept a false belief about ourselves that is at our core, that gives us a way of being, gives us an identity and role within the family at the expense of fate. Our problems, our repeated problems in our life, our suffering and ignorance, and our negative reincarnations. Pretense of Noah is a way of recognizing that. And people who are addicted to that pretense of Noah, that false image of what it means to be knowing, becomes a philodoxia. They love their own opinions, lover of opinions, and they don't engage in the dialectic, which is what we're here to learn. Dialectic is how do we reach our destiny. Debate is how we solidify our problems, because that's a philonikos, lover of conflict through debates. You solidify that identity. You solidify whatever argument you're debating, but also, more importantly, you're solidifying the idea of yourself as someone who has to argue. Because that's what it means to be a big, strong Noah, the legacy of Charlie Kirk. Look at me being a big racist, sexist, fascist idiot. The words I spew make no sense. The arguments I sometimes pay attention to, but I've learnt tricks to use words to manipulate. I am a lover of debates, philonikos, lover of fighting. Why? If he's not learning anyone and he's just doing harm? Because he thinks that's what it means to be a Noah. He feels whatever pleasure of certainty he feels, he's associated that with knowing. And he spent his whole life indoctrinating himself into that image, identifying with that image, solidifying a false identity, causing his and everyone else's negative functioning in this life, and also a negative incarnation. Because our identity is what plays the decisive role in our choice of our next incarnation. So what? So that means there are two elements in the learning process. There is the removal of the false learning and nurture, and the development of the accurate one. Or what we can say, therefore our learning is color. Sorry. Therefore our learning is a purification and perfection. Or purification of fate, which is fate, removal of fate, and a perfection reaching our purpose or destiny. That's our learning. That's the learning. That learning and nurture of our soul. And that happens through via mastery of the art of dialectic. That's what we're here for. Dialectic. And the study of that we are calling love, philodianoia. Philodianoia. The love of understanding. So that's the meaning of life for you. Tell your friends. They won't listen, but try anyway. Maybe someone will. Who knows? So, the purification of what's false, or removal of our faith, our perfection of what's true, or the reaching of our destiny is the learning of nurture of the soul that we're here to do, which happens via the art of dialectic and the study of Philodianoia, the love of understanding. And here are the arguments for that we've gone through. Hooray! Whoops. Yay. Now, last time we asked the question, what's required to be able to participate in that dialectic? Let's say you realize that you thought, oh, you go through this and you go, well, that makes sense. And I'm a good noodle. I want to be a good person in this life. I want to be able to do good to others in this life. And I also want to have a good reincarnation. So I'm going to do what we're here to do. Or you might go the opposite. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to inflict suffering, and I don't want to suffer in the next reincarnation. So I'm going to do it. Well, we talked about what's required, because it's not a debate. And as Socrates says, ain't no one really wanting to learn this stuff. Everyone thinks they've got it all figured out. And our models, our religious authorities and our political authorities model that very thing. They say, hey, who's to say what's true about reality and politics? Here is me, the biggest idiot, acting as certain as possible, and look at all the money and fame I get. Therefore, if our role models are the absolute worst, or embrace the most this false idea of what it means to be knowing, then why would anyone else want to learn? Well, that's why you have to be able to think for yourself and have courage and character. And we talked about what's required to be able to participate in the dialectic. So, what's required to be able to participate in the dialectic? How's my lighting? And we gave 8 stages to be in the game. First of all, you have to have a nose in the text. Otherwise, what are you doing? If we're here to learn, you have to be reading the material to learn, because that's following the lead. Balboa translations of Plato. Are you in the Symposium? Are you in the Republic? That's having a personally meaningful goal with excellence. That's number 2. Having a nose in the text is seeking a meaningful goal. Not just reading it, mastering it. Can you master the Republic, or the Symposium, or the Ion, or the Meno? Balboa translations only, folks. Not only, you can look at the other translations as we do when we read to get maybe some clues, or to reflect on the difference between how philosophy is taught at school and what Socrates was really saying, to compare what we've been reading in the text, Aristotle's interpretation from what actually Socrates said, just as we've been reading Paul's interpretation, modern Christians are actually Pauline Jews, compared to what Jesus himself said in Mark and the Gnostic Gospels. Again, ain't nothing about believing in Jeebus, ain't nothing about the raising from the dead, ain't nothing about sin and punishment. That's all Paul's bullshit that we know are unjust false beliefs that Paul suffered, and of course he did. He was one of those people who were the politicians and religious authority people who were so attached to their false idea of knowing that he claimed to supersede Jesus. He denied what Jesus said. God appointed me as the actual dude, and you can reject Jesus and follow me and start a church that based on me. And all that rapture stuff and the sin and punishment stuff and the fighting devils stuff is all from Paul. So the worst kind of person, in the worst kind of functioning, Christians believe him and not Jesus. Equally so, Aristotle, who rejects metaphysics, is how we teach philosophy. So you can reflect on the other translations to compare the two and gain an insight on why we're in the problems we're in our current state in history. So you got to have your nose in the text. Balboa translations of Plato or Pierre Grimes. Your dreams will help you with them. You have to yourself be trying to personify your highest understanding and your highest vision, which is another way of saying seeking excellence in your most personally meaningful goals as well. If you're not seeking your most meaningful goals, then you're not going to surface your blocks. And if you're haven't got a nose in the text, you're not going to be able to learn what you need to reach that. Number 3, you have to be taking notes about your blocks that arise. You need to be collecting the clues, otherwise what are you going to look at to solve the puzzle? And you have to have a familiarity with, at some level, and an openness to the dialectic. If you don't even know the dialectic, how are you going to seek to participate in the dialectic? And if you do come across a dialectician, what's going to stop you from being a cunt and debating him? So these first 4 are just base level things. Practical, obvious, necessary things to just get into the game. You don't have your notes, what are you going to do a dialectic on? You don't know what dialectic is, how are you going to follow a lead? No compromise with me. Like we had someone come into the chat yesterday and say, and when I was talking about this, well, what about you? I challenge your idea of knowing. No, you don't get to fucking do that. That's not the game. Imitation, negation, contrarianism. You follow the questions and you say whether or not you follow. If you disagree, you say where you're lost and we go over it to move step by step together following a lead. But I want to be the king priest. No, that's your parents' game. If you are taking over, you're playing your parents' game. If you're playing your parents' game of the false knower, you're not doing the dialectic, because the dialectic is specifically to remove that. If you just want to solidify it, then you're doing the opposite. Being a cunt. So, those are the first 4 you need. But then, to be in the game, you have to be, as we just said, willing to sacrifice that way of being, that identity, that idea of knowingness. We can throw that in there. Core beliefs about self and reality. Oops. The false knower way of being. Got to be willing to sacrifice what's false and bad and harmful. If you're addicted to what's false, bad, and harmful and you don't want to, then fuck right off. No, then try and reach your most meaningful goals. You will experience yourself being blocked. And keep going and try everything you can to solve the problems on your own until you have to throw your arms up and say, you know what, I can't fucking solve this. For a lot of people, that's what it takes. Otherwise, I come into these midwife talks thinking, oh, I know the answers. Well, you don't. If you did, you wouldn't have a problem and you wouldn't be reincarnated. But that's not for me to tell you. That's for you to experience. Try everything in your power. Not to hide your problems, but to seek excellence and face and solve your problems. So, you have to realize that you don't have what you need and you want to give up your false beliefs, your false idea of knowing, etc. But also, to do that, you have to be able to challenge your first teachers, your past teachers, usually parents. You have to challenge the family clan way of being. You have to challenge your dearly held images of what it means to be your loved ones. But I love my mummy and daddy. I never want to see them as bad. Well, then you're a child. You're a sycophant. You're a cult member. They are human beings like everyone else. Because they fucked doesn't make them wise. Otherwise, everyone would be wise. Almost everyone. They're not. It's the opposite. Only a few. That's why we only have a couple of authors that we need to be reading. So you got to be willing to sacrifice that as number 5. You have to be willing to learn about the dialectic as you go, because the more you learn, the better you can participate in yourself. Anticipate the stages. Recognize the stages. Be a good interlocutor. If you have enlightenment experiences, keep going. Use them to develop your understanding. That's the game. Experiences come and go, even enlightenment experiences. Understanding is what stays with us. You're able to reach goals along the way if you're in this game. Goals you've never been able to reach before. Now I'm a rock star. That's all. I'm thinking of someone in particular. I mean, there's lots of people. I mean, Pierre said this a lot. Thousands of people probably have come and gone through his group. And I think most of them have a little bit of success, are able to reach some basic goals that they've been blocked from their whole life, and then they're out the door. See ya! Can't do that. Well, I mean, you can, and people do. And I suppose Pierre talked to them. But I don't know. Makes me sick. Something in my stomach goes, yuck. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not playing that game. Ugh. I'm not here to give you the ability to reach certain goals that you were blocked from without addressing your ignorance. Because now you can just play out your ignorance in these different higher capacity. It's going to be bad for everyone. Which is interesting because I spent my whole life trying to get into a position where I could do dream analysis and midwifery with seemingly the only person on the planet with the skill, with the art. And every day I was there, I was trying my best to talk with him or be around him. And every day I was there, I had a dream in my back pocket. And every meeting, I put my copies of the dreams on the table. Sometimes handwritten, sometimes photocopied. So everyone had a copy, and everyone in the class could go through it too. So it really befuddles my mind how anyone would want to give up this, which is so clearly the reason we're here. But that's been a puzzle I've been carrying my whole life. Why do so few people love understanding? But that's my puzzle, and I still got it. But it's kind of fun, I suppose, to think about. Like, hey, dudes, it's fucking Pierre Grimes. I mean, I'm glad that there aren't billions of people knocking at the door trying to get in. Like, it's a Metallica concert or something, or a Coldplay concert. I mean, that means I can have VIP tickets, but good for me, but come on, guys. It's like Metallica times 10. No, Metallica times 1,000. Anyway. I mean, Look. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different logical, rational, universally applicable arguments to prove that the meaning of life is to participate and master the dialectic. From just these pages that we've been reading recently. You probably get 50 from reading through this book. It's a banger. Humans are weird. Anyway, so if you have enlightenment experiences, keep going. Use them to further develop your understanding and mastery of that dialectic, which is what we're here to do. And if you reach those goals, you are able to reach keep going as well. It's number 7. And finally, share. You will have ups and downs. Anticipate those ups and downs. Keep your cool in the ups and downs, or add elements to that. Expect. Oops. Share. So that involves expect ups and downs. Keep your cool. Try your best to keep your cool. Keep your breathing. Keep your temperance during them. Reflect upon, or how about share? Give me a minute. Share with like-minded people who are also in the game, who are also in the game. Those ups and downs. Insights and difficulties. And share the dialectic. Because that's the nurturing. So, someone came in and said, I want to talk to you on Discord voice chat. And I said, do you meet these 8 conditions? And they said, no, and see you later. But that's what they are. So worth talking about, worth expressing. There are a couple of extra ones that you can say come from Socrates talking about in the Alcibiades. He meets Alcibiades and he says, look, this is what you go through in midwifery. So you have to have already shown an interest in learning, an interest in wanting to understand, an interest in self-development, willing to go through these kinds of sacrifices. When you give birth to an idea that's false, but it's a beloved self-image or a beloved clan belief or a beloved image of parents, just like some people are like a new mother. And even though it's a sick baby that needs to be aborted, they try and cling to it because it's their first. Don't cling to your beliefs and images because they're your first. trust the midwife, let them go, or don't trust the midwife. You've seen it's false. Abort the sick ideas. But I think this pretty much encapsulates it all. I think having a history or having an interest in personal development and or spiritual experiences comes into this, seeking your higher goals. But this has to be met. Now, we also talked about last time, we didn't finish this part, the issue with why, one of the reasons why debate can't work. And this is the idea of mean analogy. Mean, there's no mean term. What do I mean by that? Well, you got two people talking, and this person says, well, I think, let's use a current topic. All political violence is caused by the left. And this person says, no, it's not. It's the evidence shows that 90% is caused by the right. But actually, even then, I would go on to say that it can't be from the left, because left is progression towards helping everyone. There are right-wing aspects or people who have right-wing tendencies or authoritarian violent tendencies that would normally or be in groups that are left-wing. So it's probably all right-wing violence, and if you know anything about the pathologos, the right wing is the pathologos, so it would be all pathologos or right-wing. But they'll say, no, I don't. Oh, no. Well, my facts come from Fox News. And if you've ever seen a debate show, that's fucking infuriating. They never agree because their facts are different. In my head, everyone different from my group is bad. And you can point to the evidence, but you have different ideas and opinions in your head. Like before this, I saw some YouTube video of Charlie Kirk debating some people in Cambridge. Disproved their argument. Disproved his so Charlie Kirk's like, oh, gay people shouldn't be allowed to marriage because conservatism is the authentic, original way of being, and we hate gays. And this guy said, no, actually, here are some other cultures. Prove it. What's another culture? Oh, the Mesopotamians. Well, was it technically marriage? Yes, it was. Well, did it go terribly? No, it went fine. And his literal response was, well, I disagree. Well, it's my opinion that it's wrong anyway. I don't give a fuck. He didn't change his mind. And all he's done is feed attention and energy into him becoming more smug in his disgusting false Noah way of being, which he's further identifying with. It gets him money now. It's his whole identity, and he died considering that was his highest idea of self, meaning his reincarnation is going to reflect that ignorance. So these debaters weren't just not helping anything, they were literally hurting him and wasting everyone else's time. That's why debate is shit. They need to learn the dialectic. Now, one thing they could have done is, seeing as there were hundreds of kids in the audience watching from Cambridge, all of which had laptops, and Cambridge is a rich school, so they should have had a projector. And every fact they spoke, all 100 of them should have started typing away on their little laptops to get the facts and projected them onto the board. So when Charlie Kirk says, well, I disagree with those facts, so the whole conversation doesn't grind to a halt. Also, every argument Kirk was making should have been addressed. So if you say, Kirk, that this is the original way of being and there are no other cultures that have done it, therefore anti-gay conservative hate bullshit is morally right, does that mean that if we can disprove those arguments, that the opposite would be right and you would agree completely and join hands with me and fight anyone who had your previous argument because you've seen it's wrong? He has to say yes. Otherwise, fuck off. You're a scammer. You have no integrity. You're a bad actor. So his arguments should all be on the board. And someone of that school, they spend enough money to go there, should know the dialectic, definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. So his random bullshit tangents and debate bro brainwashing techniques don't get to play out. So, can they afford a projector in Cambridge? Yes. Can they spend their money learning the dialectic? I fucking hope so. Do they have laptops? I bet they all do. Therefore, can they fact check? Yes. Why is this significant? Because, okay, so that's debate. There's no mean term. There's no set of or study on what's good for the country or whatever the fuck that they can both look at. So they're not carrying in their dumb opinions. They're actually both addressing the mean term. There needs to be a study. In every single, if you still want to do debates, there needs to be a mean term. Something that you can both look at and not say, well, I'm looking at something here. I've got special knowledge from Jesus that says that. No. Here is the facts. Here is the study. Our job is to make sense of those facts or put meaning onto them to come to a conclusion. So they need the facts and they need someone to have some sort of skill or art in how to organize arguments. That's it. It's just that simple. The same thing happens in the true learning or the Dharma. It's a mean analogy. As Diotima taught Socrates, so too can Socrates teach others, us. The opposite is debate. As my parents bullshitted me, or as Fox News bullshitted me, or as Charlie Kirk bullshitted me, so too will I repeat his talking points around the work construction site and act like a big strong Noah and spew my racist, sexist, pathologos-based hate on others. It's a stagnant analogy. There's no mean term. A is to be as A is to be. So what? So we need a mean term. Now, why? Because a passing on of information or a learning, the learning process, true learning process is from extremes. There's someone with ignorance and there's someone with wisdom. There's a student, there's a teacher. But that's the difficulty, because we saw the argument that we used earlier in the text is look, if human problems are caused by ignorance or false beliefs, then wisdom and ignorance cannot exist together. That was the dialectic that Jesus and Sock went through. Which means it makes no sense to punish people for their problems because you're punishing people for a lack of wisdom. Number one, it's stupid and irrational to punish someone for lacking a good thing. You don't punish someone for not having an ice cream. Number two, punishment doesn't create wisdom. So you solve problems by wisdom. And as a result, we had that argument also, or the line of what actually ends up happening in punishment is all you're doing is teaching people to not get caught. And you also bring a suffering in the soul that deprives you of freedom and that prevents you from discovering the roots of your problem. And so you leave the core false beliefs at the core of our ignorance untouched. So wisdom and ignorance can't coexist. There is no ignorance that can stand the light of wisdom. Which means they are two extreme terms. Which means, how the hell do you go from motion to rest? If rest is in rest by its principle, how can rest create motion, which is its opposite? Now that's something else, but same principle. If wisdom is in principle opposite of ignorance, how do you transfer wisdom to ignorance? You need a mean term. You need a mean term that the student can focus on and the teacher can focus on. The student can't see the teacher's wisdom, but the student can puzzle over the dream. The text that we read. The notes taken about the blocks that arise when seeking your most personally meaningful goals, not someone else's goals, personally, not Jesus's, Paul's goals, personally meaningful. Oh, Jesus, come on. Meaningful goals with excellence. Yay. Need a mean term. A dream. So dreams are kind of the best because they contain both. Or a text that we're reading, which is the positive, usually. Okay. Or as we said in stage 3, taking notes on the blocks that arise as you seek your most personally meaningful goals with excellence with your nose in a text. 1, 2, and 3 of the prereqs. Prerequisites for participating in dialectic, which is literally the meaning of life. And we went through the argument showing that. We will continue to, because I bet there will be an infinite amount of ways of showing that this is the meaning of life for everyone. Right. Yep. Taking notes. Why? Because we need to look at those notes in the dialectic, which gives us a mean term. It's through the mean term that you can participate, that the student can connect with the teacher, or wisdom and ignorance has a term through which you can reach. Going from ignorance to wisdom. And this idea is also expressed in the symposium, as we've been going through. all of these things, all of these aspects of learning, that's the meaning of life, remember? To learn. Learn what? The dialectic. Why? Takes you from ignorance, removes ignorance and develops wisdom. Purification, perfection. So all of those stages of learning, or cognitive stages, has a accompanied feeling state. But also there is an accompanying level of love and intimacy. Because in the symposium, those cognitive stages are linked to beauty and love. Which is interesting. So in a love and logos based relationships, or the ideal relationship, love and logos, love and understanding, because love without understanding is literal sadism, can be sick. I love kicking puppies. All you need is love. No. I'm sure Netanyahu loves murdering people. So fuck off with that. Love and understanding. But because in the symposium we have where Socrates got his instruction from his female teacher Diotima to reach his enlightenment experiences. Love is the mean term. Love is a mean term through which the divine or wisdom communicates with man. So that means you can have a two-person game. A two-person game where you reach the wisdom from ignorance, good ignorance, open, like that's that stung state, philosophical ignorance. You're reading the text, that's right opinion to get these mean terms. You're arranging them in the dialectic, following the logos, following the lead dialectic or understanding, culminating in knowledge, and then from that you can develop highest wisdom or knowing self. So these cognitive stages are outlined that you can reach together with someone else who also wants to do this and loves understanding. Because as there are a corresponding feeling state to these levels of learning, there is also a corresponding level of participation in beauty. So what? So, love is the desire to participate in beauty in a higher and higher way, which is why romance is always an expression of this. I want eternal connection with you, baby. Well, that can only happen here. Knowledge is an eternal connection, but even that will end. I want to fully connect with you everywhere all at once, baby. Let's take off our clothes, baby. Well, that full connection only happens here. You are the star in my sky, baby. That's this. The principle of suns or stars is the brilliant light of being. It's the root cause. So if they are to literally be a sun, they'd have to be the cause, so they'd even transcend suns by being the principle of suns. That's knowledge, but you can go a step further for true excellence as well. So all romantic sentiments is everything you say before you say, baby. You are the one, baby. That's the one. You are my son, baby. That's here. I want to connect with you fully, baby. Forever, baby. So all romantic sentiment is the soul's desire for that goal through the mean of love. The difference is we recognize romance or poetry, we call it, as a lie. You can't. Everyone knows you can't connect with someone forever, for always, completely, and they can't literally be a son, etc., or be the one. There are many ones, aren't there? So romance or poetry is people say of poetry, it's the lie that points to the truth or something. Well, The difference is in actual learning, what we're here to do, the dialectic, it's not a lie. It's making use of that sentiment, normally expressed as lies through romantic language, making use of that power of love. The power of love. Doot, 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 doot. It's power of love. Back to the Future. Using that power of love to fuel as the mean between two people to move from ignorance through the stages to wisdom. So that's the symposium. But that's not what we're talking about here. That's why it's in brackets. So literally, it's love is described as the spirit or daemon that communicates the messages from the gods to the people, and vice versa. But for us, we need to be reading a text because we can both look at the text. But I think that life's about this. I think metaphysics is about this. I think spirituality is about this. Who gives a shit? You're wrong. Of course, if you're carrying it, it's wrong. Because the truth isn't something you carry. It's something that mind participates in that's eternal. It's not an opinion, by definition. Literally, if you have opinions that are different from truth, that's why you're here. That's cause your problems. And your reincarnation. That's why we read the text. That's why it's so important to record your dreams and do dream analysis. I think I've said a million times how to do it. Record your dream into audio as soon as you wake up. Wait a while and transcribe it in the afternoon from memory. Transcribe your audio and compare the two. You'll notice some differences that are handy for lots of different reasons, so I recommend you do that. You can use an audio transcription service as well. TurboScribe is a good one. Just to speed up the transcription. And if you really want to get it accurate, set an alarm to wake yourself up every 1.5 to 2 hours, because that's your dreams come in that increment. There's like a dream here, and then there's a gap, and then there's a dream, and there's a gap, and you get about 4 or 5 a night. So when you wake up, you're probably going to remember your dreams as different scenes, or you'll mash them together. Okay. So it's still worth doing in the morning, but if you want to be super awesome at it, or move like a thief and quickly and with most accuracy, you can set your alarm. But you wouldn't do that. You need to have that mean term. Love, a desire, some purpose, some motivation to actually go through that process. Which would require you to see those things that we've been seeing. That there is an inherent intelligibility and justice. There is a reason for being here. There is a learning. It isn't all nihilism or pointless. That this is the most important goal. Life isn't about collecting all the money or hurting all the Palestinians or crushing all the poor or manipulating through religion. No, life's actually about learning. Learning and nurture through the dialectic. Philodinoia. And you're not alone. You've got a guide. So these are all things you'd have to recognize first to actually give two shits about recording your dreams. That's another fascinating thing. Doesn't everyone have dreams? Like everyone? Always? Where does it come from? If you can unpack them and see that there is an intelligibility, there is a mythological representation of the principles of reality applied specifically to your whole life, with a knowledge about your past, your present, and even give you prophetic sights into the future. So matching your entire life with metaphysical principles, reflecting what's specifically important in your present, always, what's urgent for you, reflecting the issues in your present, and communicating it in a solvable way that you can actually gain insights into the cause of your problems from your past, see how it's been playing out through your life, currently causing your blocks in your present and leading you down to your fate in your future, while giving you those clues in a way that you can solve them such that you will be able to have a different kind of present that will open you up to a new future, your purpose or destiny. If that can be seen in every single dream, what are we doing? Are we ignoring all that? Why are we ignoring it? And even those who don't ignore it seem to say, well, dreams are just your mind spitting chemicals. That's materialism. That's Aristotle. It's not physical chemicals spurting nonsense. Or people who who say, okay, it's not physical chemicals, it's your mind, but it's your mind just processing the RAM of your day, your random access memory to put it into your long-term memories or your ROM. Nothing that you have to pay attention to. No messages to you. And the prophetic dreams, forget about that. And all that intelligibility, forget about that. And its relevance to what's important in your present, forget about that. And the fact that you can solve problems, or people wake up with problem solved, or wake up with insights, or wake up with a whole song in their mind, forget about that. There's a lot of having to forget about things to accept that dreams are either nothing, or material, or processing of, I don't know, mind that you don't have to pay attention to. So again, something that's puzzling to me. It's the same puzzle. Why isn't there anyone lining up for the LeBron James versus Michael Jordan basketball one-on-one game? Why aren't there hundreds of thousands of people lining up for the Metallica and Coldplay concert? They're playing together in the same band for the first time. Metallica and Coldplay playing the hits. If this is Metallica times 1,000, I don't know, but I will keep talking about it anyway in hopes that people can see the significance of it and enjoy the benefits of it. But also for myself, because that's this one. I'm sharing. Number 8. And maybe once I get a better webcam, I'll be able to share it even better. I think maybe that's what my music is supposed to be for, but we'll see how we go. I might start, I mentioned earlier, the chat bot, because they didn't reply to me, that I might be streaming music on this channel too, so maybe I'll get more people interested. And I'll drop a few tidbits or lyrics about the significance of dreams and the meaning of life that's understandable and what we're here for and absolutely worth doing, and there's reincarnation based consequences if we don't. Yeah, so that's the analogy I started last time. The reason why debates can't work and the reason why we need a mean analogy in learning, or you need to be taking notes, you need to have your nose in a text, and you need to be recalling your dreams. And also love, if it's a two-person relationship that you're utilizing to fulfill your purpose. Love and logos. So, mean term. Otherwise, no connection. Speaking of a text, let's read it. So, where are we? Here we are. Let's start here. All right, let's jump in. So, what's the issue? Well, when we are a wee baby, a little bean, we accept a fundamental core belief from the family that's not true, that becomes a way of being and an image of the self and identity. We spend our life ingratiating ourselves, inculcating ourselves, further entrenching ourselves in that identity. That's the negative learning and nurture we're doing that causes our negative functioning in this world, in our relationships, and in our reincarnations. Giving rise to the statement, an unexamined life ain't worth living. Why? Because an unexamined life isn't just neutral, it's actively bad for you. So, it's that way of being and identity that is offered to us by accepting what is false and harmful. If you're a human being, that's what you got. Well, there we go, the cause of human problems. Neat. We can solve human problems. It's just that. And it's written and it's highlighted. This book is a banger. I'm getting sad today. I don't know why. I think it's because a lot of the content creators that I enjoy have been sad. There've been like several mass shootings in America. ICE are just killing people now. Trump is deploying troops against his own citizens. No one seems to be doing anything against the genocide against the Palestinians. The rich are just raising prices and rent so no one can live, and everyone's suffering, and no one seems to be able to address and solve the root causes of the problems. So the opposition aren't oppositioning. Everyone seems to be bought out. So, yeah, so maybe I'm a bit sad about that today. But we can be happy because we can solve problems. Because this book bangs so hard. And not only does this book bang so hard in that it shows you the root cause of all human problems, and it's right there and I'm pointing to it, but because we're, how far are we? 129 pages in, we have a map of why we're in our position. Well, reincarnationally why we're here, but also historically. The devolution or the distortion of the teachings of Jesus through Paul and John and onto the church, and also the distortion of Socrates' works after we murdered the bloke through Plato and into Aristotle and into what we call modern Stoicism, which is materialism, which is Aristotelian thought, the Roman tradition of education. So this book lays it all out for us. Maybe I'm sad because I'm not doing a good enough job. I wish I could be doing better. There's no, I got lucky and I came across Pierre's stuff and studied for a very long time and practiced for a long time, but maybe that's my puzzle. I'm here to figure out how to share this information. Anyway, it sucks that when there are people who I care about who are suffering needlessly and like, hey, this is the thing we should do. We should do this thing. And I don't know, I'm not important enough or charming enough to be worth listening to. Yet? I don't know. I have a chicken. Maybe I should use AI content to generate YouTube slop for about Jesus being saved by a golden retriever, and because that's the content that gets the clicks, apparently. Anyway, so the child accepts a new way of being that marks and shapes his way of life, and so his reincarnation. So in a similar way, analogically, a soul accepts a way of life that marks or shapes his or her new life. So there was a kind of choice or decision made in an origin scene. Now, we're not blaming the child or whatever. It's very difficult conditions. It's not, it's a kind of a solution to a problem of our childhood. But equally so, our soul makes a decision for the life. And here I am being sad about my lot in life as not being a good enough communicator. But that's I guess my soul chose that, to learn how to communicate better. We will see. You have laid out the mystery in a splendid way, Socrates. There must be something similar to account for both the identification with, or the loyalty to, the new image and way of life. So something similar in how the soul picks your life that you identify with and you're loyal to, so too the child accepts an image and belief of themselves in reality that they become identified with and loyal to. That's your problem. That's everyone's problem. That's Netanyahu's problem. That's Trump's problem. That's Nancy Pelosi's problem. That's the Buddhist guru down at the ashram's problem. That's the Taoist bloke down at that other place, the Zen Center problem. Well, I'll swap that, I think. That's the Pope's problem. That's his Archbishop's problem. And all the other blokes on their blokey bloke team's problems. That's Jesus' problem. That's Muhammad's problem. That's everyone's problem. Because it's a principle. And if it's a principle that's universally applicable, we can say that that also speaks to the reason why we're here, or the meaning of life. If this is a universal principle for all human beings, then it's only a small step to realize our purpose is to solve our problems, which we're naturally inclined to want to do, which requires the learning that we're here to do. Ipso facto, bing bang boom, bing bang bong, or however that saying goes. Socrates. The similarity... Drink some coffee. I have incense burning next to me, that's why I'm coughing. I don't have Ethan Klein disease, I promise. The similarity that you ask about is the dynamic between... Oh, here we go, means. Just where we're talking about that. The similarity that you ask about is the dynamic mean between our twofold existence. As we journey between heaven and earth, this bond that is experienced accounts for the full range of the self-imposed masks that block the perception of self. Ooh. So our self-imposed masks block the perception of self. And there is a twofold existence between heaven and earth. And there's a bond. And this bond has to account for the full range of the self-imposed marks that blocks the perception of self. Interesting. Consider, as we know, upon death, all experience that most brilliant light of being, worth recognizing. To the degree one is able to endure that divine luminosity. Oh, we're getting the good stuff now. to that very degree, there is a corresponding profound depth or shallowness in one's way of being. Holy fuck, listen to this. Okay, those who've had near-death experiences or studied it or learned about it or read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you probably recognize that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, a divine luminosity. But the significance is, and we've been understanding it this whole way, that's what metaphysics is, literally studying and understanding the nature of the divine light, because it's the paradigm for everything here. It's the logos, beauty, justice, etc. But he's saying, hey, if you can endure it, and using what we've carried, what we've been learning, I suppose the enduring it is removing any image that says you're not good enough or not capable. There's the purification and the perfection of understanding it so you can recognize and value it. And maybe even practice it. Remember, the separating of the soul from the body is a practice of philosophy. And we want to experience pure beauty, knowledge. So a kind of a training and nurturing to remain in that divine luminosity, because when you die, the degree that you can endure that luminosity creates a corresponding depth or shallowness in your way of being. So that makes sense to what we're understanding about intelligence. As we were saying, we don't care about debates because what you carry in your brain is stupid. It's opinions. To the degree you can share in intelligence itself is the degree to which you are yourself intelligent. That's why intelligence is universal. Everyone can share an understanding. Opinions are the cause of conflict because everyone's opinions are dumb and different and in opposition to each other. That's why belief is the cause of problems. That's why fascists are trying to instill religion, because it's manipulating opinion and it's in opposition to universal truth and understanding. That's also why we need to demand full participation in intelligence for every spiritual person, because that's the nature of the reality, of self and reality, but also for every political leader, because it's what justice is. It's universal, and the reason why it's just, well, it can be applied as justice always, is because it's universal. It's unchanging. It's where principles come from. That's why the best people that you'll ever meet are people who are interested in understanding principles, understanding causes, understanding preconditions, and they're able to function in the best way because that's how they think. And they're able to think in that way because they're able to participate in intelligence itself in a higher level than other people, because they are most like it. We are organizing ourselves to be most like that which we can participate in. Why? Because physical things connect physically. Like I'm physically touching this chicken. But psychic isn't physical. That's why it's metaphysical or spiritual. That's what spirituality means, of the spirit, non-physical. So how do you join? If you're not mushing your bodies together in an embrace, how are you joining with a non-physical thing? Likeness. Likeness. It's through likeness that analogy functions. The student becomes like the teacher. Via a mean analogy. Two loving partners become like Zeus, or like each other in the highest, like the self in the higher sense through love. Like Zeus. So that's part of our learning and nurture that we're here to do. And that's why hypocrisy is bad, and contradictions is bad, and politicians speaking from opinion or religion is bad. Always. It's not a universal principle that applies equally to always. Equally always to everyone. So this participation intelligence also happens after when we die, and to the degree we participate in it, just as to the degree that we share in it as people, we are more intelligent and caring. We are better noodles. We are more good noodles. so too your way of being is enhanced depending on the level or the degree to which you can join with and endure being. Wow, what a good book this is. See? You don't even have to read the Tibetan Book of the Dead. You get everything written in modern language. Speaking of modern language, where are our dudes? Here they are. Upon death, all experience that most brilliant light of being. To the degree one is able to endure that divine luminosity, to that very degree, there is a corresponding profound depth or shallowness in one's way of being. In that encounter, they realize that what blocked them from a more profound experience was their own fear that they would be extinguished in that awesome and powerful presence of luminosity. Wow. Now, I have heard Pierre talk to different people at different times about their meditation and their experiences, and I've heard him chuckle a couple of times when they bring up, what if I lose myself? It's a very common thing. And here we can see why he was laughing. Because it's a universal fear. You fear losing yourself. Or, as you separate from the body, you feel, I'm going to die. I don't want to die. And he laughs. And then he's laughing because he says, you're not going to die. As we said, drop dead a million times before they finally bury you. The life of a philosopher. A million times, I added. A bunch of times. But also, not only is it not going to happen, it's the very thing that blocks us from participating in that experience of reality, self, intelligence. He also says that he gives an analogy. He says, hey, are you the same person? Do you think of yourself differently than when you thought of yourself as a 4-year-old? How about an 8-year-old? How about a 12-year-old? How about a 17-year-old? Because you don't think of yourself in the same way. Did you lose yourself? Are you less of yourself now? Or rather, in removing or growing and maturing and letting go of all of the false things you carried about yourself, are you becoming more yourself? That's the issue. What we fear losing that blocks us from more profound experiences in our world is actually the thing we're supposed to lose, because it's the very cause of our problems. It's a block to seeing what's there, because it's, as we saw earlier, it's always present. Reality is always present. Self is always present because you are self. Reality is always present because this is reality. So that was when we was talking about our purpose, or the real word, destiny. Present. It's always present. Here we go. Page 129. We are a race that's here to fulfill its destiny. The end is everywhere present. To come to know the self and realize that the nature of reality is divine. So self and reality is always present. Don't have to wait. Ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, set, go. Ready, set, go. It becomes complicated because we seek other goals that we are loyal to. Oh, just a page back. There we go. The issue is we're loyal to other goals because we are carried to it. We are identified with a different image, and that image or self that we are afraid of losing, we think we're going to lose the self. That blocks us from our higher experiences and our higher goals. We think we need it. How can we relate to people in the world? How can we do things in the world if I don't have my way of being, if I don't have my image of myself? By the way, there are we won't get into that now, but there are correspondences to how you hold yourself, your tensions, even your physical ailments that you have, related to a way of being that you think you need and you don't want to therefore dissolve. And as you pursue your goals, like the other day, I was playing guitar at the beach to prepare for a gig I was going to have that night. And someone asked me some questions about it, and I should have guided them to the dialectic as we're being told to do here. But I repeated something. I said, oh, I'm nervous. And hang on a second, I'm not nervous. I used to be nervous. That's an old habit. I know how the conversation is going to unfold with him if I use this. It's safe, it's easy. I'm going to get a bit of sympathy. He's going to say, do your best, don't give up. I'm going to get some encouragement. But it's not real. It felt fake. I have different focus now, different goals now. I'm not that self anymore. That's the issue. You feel that the self would be extinguished in that powerful presence of luminosity. Quite the opposite. It's literally, by definition, this is the significance of having the dialectic or understanding in our back pockets. It's literally self-knowing itself. It's not the self, it's the reflection of self into existence to allow self to know yourself. Isn't that interesting also? That the self that you are, its reflection is an awesome and powerful, profound experience of divine luminosity. In other words, to experience yourself is literally to have the greatest experience possible. And that's just a reflection of you. Holy shit. Seen a reflection of yourself in a mirror? It's missing a dimension. It's kind of inverted. Your left hand is your right hand. Doesn't have intelligence, doesn't have will. Your reflection in the mirror. So it's missing all the most awesomest elements of yourself. Your reflection in the mirror. This is a reflection of you. So this isn't even this most profound experience. To the extent to which you can endure it gives you the more profound way of being, is still a reflection. Isn't that interesting? I think it's interesting. Wow.
The more holes, the better. Talking about a bunch of slop.
Hee. Come back, players. Jesus. Does the role of similarity play itself out as the pathologos is transmitted? If so, when does it happen? Similarity. Likeness. We're just talking about that, weren't we? Oh, my back. Oh, stretch. Oh. There is always a time when the child steps out of the generally accepted state of mind that marks the family psyche. It seems natural, beautiful, and has a sense of freedom to it. At this moment, the parental figure has to end that freedom. There is our first teachers that we are here to challenge. But I love my parents. Not fucking then. But my dad was the best. But my mum's not then. Or the clan will have to deal with the freedom of expression in other ways. that are unsettling to the family ways of being, right? Ain't no family I've seen willing to learn shit. Ain't no family I've seen willing to change their way of being. Significant? Yes. Why? Because if you want to have a good family, it's being willing to change your way of being into unsettling, unfamiliar things to allow for the freedom, natural, beautiful, free state of mind of your kids and yourself. By the way, also a model for relationships. Don't clip the wings of your partner because it's unfamiliar. Whatever the incident is, it becomes the object of scorn. Yeah, no joke. No joke. They'll scorn you for it. They'll even joke about it. They'll mock you for it. All that other shit. Right? The bully picks on the smart kid. That kind of thing. It becomes the object of scorn and condemnation. That way of being becomes taboo. And when that happens, the state of mind that accompanies the way of being linked to it is also forbidden. Remember what we're here for? To address this? Now we are learning the aspects involved in your transmission scene. What you have to recognize as the universal causes and conditions, but also the specific causes and conditions for your specific pathologos you're here to unpack. If you don't learn this, you're going to be stuffed in this life and in the next. Says the last few pages we read. So, great. Sorry, I don't want to sound scoldingly. It's interesting, it's fascinating, and it's amazing that we can just read it. You have to pay for a course. Or get the platinum membership in some right-wing grifters bullshit. Or become Thetan level 85 in Scientology, or pray for 50 years at the church, or meditate for 40 years at the ashram, or any of that stuff. It's just here. I think it's cool. Do you?
Is this chat full?
I'm cute. Like,
Don't be disgusting.
do a poggers.
I need to... I'll stop complaining about my soundboard. As soon as I have time. So I can make the characters talk to each other, right, Aaron?
That's where you live, in the weirdo pool. You're going around doing that. I
don't want to eat a monkey.
Keep that little smug.
So silly. Silly. The state of mind that accompanies that way of being is also forbidden. To make the false appear true, the parental figure has to appear most noble. Dun, dun, dun. To make the false appear true, the parental figure must appear. To imitate knowing. There's our pretense of knower. Every debater. Don't debate people, you're just solidifying this. To make the false appear true, the parental figure has to appear most noble, as knowing the truth about life, as being the utmost sincere and caring. Right, so there's our false image of love that dominates our relationships, and the pretense of Noah that becomes the goal that we seek in everything we do. Look for opportunities where we can play out this professional opinion haver, and which often involves having kids, because no one gives two shits about your dumb opinion. Unless, of course, you become a fascist or a Pope. What's the difference? You tell me. These things are always rare, and the child sees what it is to be knowing and caring. And this becomes the way of being to imitate. Hey, Sassa's still here. Welcome back. It creates a new way of being, which is a new way of life for the child. We're highlighting a lot because every single term is significant and worth nailing down. You come and go, monkey. No, it's a cute little girl. Okay. I thought it was a monkey. But it's not. Every part of this is necessary to be seen. You want to remove problems? You want to remove problems in the world? You want to remove your own problems? You want to have a good incarnation? You want to become more intelligent by enduring the brilliant light of being? You want to have a better way of being your next incarnation by enduring the brilliant way of being? Realize this is the dynamic of getting that false belief you are specifically here to solve. Cleaning, daydreaming, how dating is going to go. How dating is going to go. Do you have a date? Ultimately, I'm a chronic romantic at heart. Because we were talking about everything we've been learning in the dynamics of an ideal relationship and its opposite that we're reading now, avoiding the opposite and using this. Using this model, love and logos, opens you up to a new way of being. That's not silly at all. A relationship based on logos or a mutual love of understanding each other allows you to avoid insistent on your family clan way of being. What kind of way of being? The way of being when you were in a natural, beautiful, free state, your parental figure ended that freedom. Otherwise, the family way of being would have to change. They'd have to deal with it. They'd have to evolve and grow, which is a good thing, but be fucked if any family wants to do that. I became a parent so I could be the king priest. That's the condition of barbarians or human zombies. So, that state of mind and that way of being of openness, freedom, beauty is forbidden. And that's what we carry with us in our lives as what it means to be loving, sincere, caring, and we think that's what it means to be knowing. That's the model for relationships. Unless you are reading this book, reflecting on it, talking about it with your loved ones, and doing your best not to imitate that same tyrannical way of being. So, very scared of wandering into a controlling relationship again. You don't have to be scared if you're reading the book. See, I'm highlighting all the good things. Keep this in mind and talk about it. And if you're dating someone who's not willing to talk about this, then you are setting yourself up for failure. Because everyone is seeking to imitate the injustice they suffered. Because they think it's knowing and they think it's caring. That's why cruelty is the point for billionaires and politicians and popes. That's why we're reincarnated. To deal with that. To deal with it, you have to understand the dynamics involved in the transmission. You don't think you'll find anyone like that? I don't know. Maybe you can read this book on one of your dates. I don't know. Worth a shot, sure. Pierre used to say something. He said, make sure you always sit down to the person who looks the most intelligent. Yeah, the thing is, how do you feel about dialectics and logos is a good question, and Socrates as well. But the thing is, their education is almost certainly going to be the opposite. They won't know what it is, and their understanding of philosophy is based on Aristotle. But you can lead the discussion. You're the dialectician. You're the one practicing the dialectic. It'll be unfamiliar. And if they're a sexist, they won't like it. But hey, Socrates learnt his how to get his spiritual experiences. Socrates learnt the nature of a loving relationship from his female teacher, Diotima. You are the dialectician. You're the one who will have to lead. At least for a while, until they both get in the book. Start practicing it and supporting each other and practicing it. Otherwise, fate. If you do, destiny. Reach your highest purpose. Love and logos. Otherwise, it's not worth living. Why? Because you're just being further identifying with this way of being that does what? Scorns and condemns a free, beautiful, open state of being. The very thing that we want to be. The state of mind and the way of being is forbidden. Parent appears noble, caring. Child imitates it. That's their way of being for their whole life. And they'll seek someone who will allow them to play that game out themselves. That's why people say you marry someone just like your mum or your dad. This is the reason. Or you do what we say here is the purpose of our existence, to break the cycle of that family clan injustice. What man must learn is to end the cycle of all clan beliefs so we can go on to know ourselves. That's the reason for our reincarnation. So are you willing to remove all your clan beliefs and false images of self, love, and knowing? That's the purification part of learning. And are you willing to go on to develop an understanding of the truth of love, the truth of beauty, the truth of knowing, and the truth of self? That's the two aspects of learning. Removing the false, purification. Once you've got the pretenders off the throne, putting the real things on the throne. Purification and perfection. That's learning. And learning is the only thing you can take with you, along with the nurturing of that learning. The more you get to talk to the person because you love each other's company, the more you nurture that way of being. And the more you nurture that way of being, the more you are removing the fears of that open and receptive state. Why is that important? Because the more you remove your fears of that openness, and the more you remove that false image of yourself, the less afraid of that luminosity experience, and the less afraid of losing yourself, because you recognize it's not yourself you're losing, it's the false image of yourself from your parents, allowing you to participate in profound experiences of beauty and bliss, which is one of the main motivating features of going on dates. After the date, you can kiss each other and touch each other and talk to each other to have experiences of beauty and bliss, intimate experiences. But they are steps towards the most profound experience of bliss and beauty, the culmination of love. But if you are blocked from that experience because you fear that your false image of self and way of being will be extinguished, then you won't be able to participate in it. You'll have shallow, intimate experiences that are not only shallow, but are likely going to add further energy into your problem, your false image and way of being, fantasies. But to the degree you're able to endure that profound, blissful experience is the very degree that your way of being becomes profound or shallow. I'm gonna go find a random person and read this with them. That's Mr. Awakening's idea of a date. Not a random person. Look for the cleverest person. Look for someone who has a good heart and a good head. Look for someone whose beauty confuses you or puts you in a state of awe, because it's likely that that beauty will be from a level of being or dimension you're not familiar with. Not physical beauty. They will look physically beautiful to you, but if it's a confusing sort, it's likely pointing to a level or a depth of beauty you're yet to reach. Beauty of soul, beauty of mind. Look for someone with a good heart and good head. Also, another tip, sense of humor. Because sense of humor is a mark of intelligence. And intelligence is a mark of how much you're able to participate in intelligence itself. Which is our goal here. Mount their head on a pike? What? No. If they're a Republican. Possible. I'm open to hearing the arguments to that. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll find someone who is imitating their parents in the time that they crushed them and they appeared most sincere in knowing, and that creates a way of being, a new way of life for the child. Sense of humor is a mark of intelligence, yeah. That's why Republicans don't have comedy. It's so weird. It's so weird. There is one guy, it seemed like he was appointed. It's like the Republicans got in the room and pointed to a guy. It's this guy named Gutfeld. If you don't know him, good. They pointed to this Gutfeld guy. You're the funniest among us. You shall be our comedians. He's not funny. Not only is he not funny, he doesn't seem to understand what a joke is. It's weird. That's why there's no right-wing comedy. It has to come from intelligence, and right-wingers are not intelligent. Because right-wing is nothing other than this. This is called the pathologos, the false belief about ourselves that fucks us up, blocks us from our freedom, blocks us from intelligence, blocks us from beauty, blocks us from our natural state, that we falsely take as what it means to be a knower. That's why all the Republicans want to hurt brown people and women and immigrants and liberals and the left and academics. They only want to fucking hurt everyone because their model of what it means to be knowing the truth about life is hurting someone, because that's what their parents did to them here, and they haven't woken up to the meaning of life, to learn midwifery and the dialectic, to surface this false belief and problem that reflects all of your other past reincarnations, to learn. That's why they only want to be cruel. That's why the Republicans don't need any principles. That's why they don't need any laws or policies. That's why they attack Mumdani, because he wants to help people, and they fucking hate helping people. That's why kings and clergy are the worst, cruelest sadists, because they're bound by belief, specifically pathologos belief. There is no Republican Party, it's just the pathologos party. That's it. And that's why they can't be funny. Funny requires fun and beauty and freedom and intelligence. They are literally blocked from it. That's why it's so bizarre seeing them try to be sincere or try to make jokes. It's so weird. It's literally like heard of the uncanny valley? It's easy to make fun of them. Yeah, because that's the game. You make fun of their ignorant way of being, and it's funny because it's true. It's a clever, beautiful, harmonious Aphrodite and Apollo way of pointing out the absurdities of this very problem. In order to wake them up, realize that their image is laughable. The person they're believing whenever they shoot themselves down is laughable and not worth listening to. The fascist figures that they support, like Trump and Putin and Netanyahu, are laughable because of how fucking stupid they are. Ignorant. Yeah, they're cruel. That's all they can be. You need knowing and understanding to make things. You need that, a good head and a good heart to care for people and benefit people. They're literally blocked from it because they're not doing midwifery. They need to be doing midwifery. We all need to be doing midwifery. You can't build anything with false belief, but you can break everything. That's why they are literally bringing an end to all life on our planet. And that's why the Democrats can't do anything. They're also blocked from thinking and being clever and being funny. And the reason why they become politicians in the first place is so they can cosplay the Noah, which is fascistic. That's why it makes no sense to say what the Americans are saying right now. Is it the left wing or right wing that's doing violence? It's the pathologos that does violence and creates the conditions for violence as an expression of futility against the injustice of the pathologos. There is no left-wing extremism. That doesn't even make sense. Left-wing extremism would be everyone gets healthcare, everyone gets freedom, everyone can learn. Extremism in the sense that right-wingers mean is literally murder or extracting all the wealth, which is what they're doing every day. But they blame it on the left because that's part of being a bully. It's not a political party. Same thing with religions. It's not a religious thing. It's not a spiritual thing. It's the exact opposite. It's the pathologos. But what we can do is learn about it and free ourselves. And as you share your understanding of it and your interest in removing it, then you're going to find people who also share that interest. Otherwise, they won't find you interesting. Asking who they voted for makes it easy. Yeah, that's true. That's why all the right-wing men are all complaining. Women don't want to debate me when I say that, want to date me when I say I'm a Republican. And also the women are realizing too that if they say they're non-political, they're Republican. They realize that they just say non-political so they don't have to say Republican, because women don't like Republicans because they're sexist, pathologos-ridden pieces of fucking garbage. The problem is they've taken this unjust way of being and pedestalized it, sanctified it. That's what Trump is. Trump is the highest sense of vice in every possible way, lauded as virtue, instead of actually addressing the problems, which is what we're doing here, by addressing the causes for why this comes to be, which is why this work is so important. It's one thing to point out that there are problems. It's another level to make fun of those problems, but it's an even higher level to actually learn how to address the causes of the problems so we can solve the problems. That's why this stream needs to get more Twitch viewers. And that's why we're starting a petition. Because everyone wants to solve problems. At their heart. Because even the imitation of this block to solving problems was a solution to a problem they had when they were a kid. Either fight back against your parents who you're dependent on and you're stuck with, or sacrifice your freedom, self, beauty, natural state. So if you do buy into the garbage, you think that this scene is the model of knowing and caring. That's what people imitate. That's why right-wingers and toe-headed people just imitate. They imitate what they hear on Fox News. They imitate the cruelty of their parents. Comedy often is imitating them to point out the absurdity of their imitation. Can't imitate your natural self. Can't imitate Socrates. It's all imitation. That is a new way of being and a new way of life for the child. Socrates. With this new vision, the child gladly accepts the clan beliefs that gives the appearance of excellence. Notice that fascists are all about appearance. Trump's White House is now all covered in gold. All of his scams, the appearance of Trump University, the appearance of Trump steaks being healthy, the appearance of everything, but that's all they care about. Ever notice that they don't give a shit about helping people, but they have to give the appearance of helping people? Ever notice that all these fascists or right-wingers give the appearance of caring about words, but just use words in a harmful way to own the libs? It's all about appearance and imitation. No learning, no knowing, no direct experience. It is a pseudo-excellence. We find the same thing going on as flocks of people go to see excellence unfold in front of them. They admire the excellence they see, and it inspires them to achieve something similar in their own lives. This is it. Hooray.
The more holes, the better. The better.
We discussed.
This is the good part. So, a lot of doom and gloom there. Not doom and gloom. It's important to... All we're doing is emphasizing the terrible consequences that follow in relationships, in your life, and your reincarnation if you don't pay attention to this. If you don't sign the petition to John Twitch that we get all the Twitch followers. But it's understandable. And solvable. So it's happy. But here's the even better part, because the opposite of it is we actually still do seek excellence. People flock to see people in excellence. They want to see the NBA Finals. They want to see the Super Bowl. They want to see Taylor Swift. And that's, I guess, important for me, who's going to go and play music sometime soon. They admire the excellence they see, and it inspires them to achieve something in their own lives. This is something that's relevant to me because, yeah, these are the positive experiences that I get when I play. The difficulty is facing this. When I play music, I have to face all of this horse shit from my parents. Because to play music requires freedom and beauty in a natural state. That would require them to challenge their ignorance that they're copying from their bullshit parents. Requires them to deal with that expression and freedom. That's unsettling. It's not how I'm used to doing things. And so they crush it. That feeling of being crushed, I have to deal with every time I perform music. And stream. But more music. Because I'm by myself when I stream. I don't have a lot of viewers. But it's for everyone. It's for everyone. Whereas it can be harder. You grow above the rest, you get your head. Yes, there is a way of being in Australia that this is also a cultural way of being called tall poppy syndrome. The poppy that sticks above the other poppies get cut down. So even though everyone has this, as they seek their higher... Thank you. I'll keep playing music. As they seek their higher goals, their voices of their parents will come in to crush them. In some cultures like America, they still embrace excellence. They like celebrities. They like Tom Brady and LeBron James and Leonardo DiCaprio. Make the crowd swoon with your sweet melodies. Yes, I will do my best. In Australia, it's the opposite. We don't like celebrities. We don't like the Helmsworth people. We think that they are liars and scammers and they've tricked everyone because Australians are bad. Tall poppy syndrome. Americans call it crabs in a crate. Sorry, even more difficult. But actually, we still go to sports. We still want to see the football player. because we admire excellence and we want to go out and kick the footy in our backyard. And we say, what do we say when I was growing up? Alan Langer, magic. So copying the, you shoot the basketball and you say, Kobe. Although not anymore. Because that's the admiring of the excellence that inspires you to achieve in your own lives. And I've got to keep that in mind, because that voice and the feedback can be drowned out by this other one. So not only do I have to purify these false images and thoughts that shut me down, I have to also perfect this one. Embrace the positive feedback. Try and be more excellent. Inspire more people. Which I guess was my issue earlier today. The difficulty in communicating what's most important. I think music, art are expressions of the human spirit. Exactly. That's why when people get into this, Pierre would say, oh, do you play an instrument? You should pick up an instrument. What instrument did you put down when you were young? Pick it up again. Because, as we said, in order to go through this process, you have to be seeking excellence. Now, ideally, it's mastering these texts. But another expression music is halfway between the physical and the intelligible. So these books are about the intelligible. Practical goals we don't want. But music, as a musical staff, is a kind of physical expression of the intelligible principles. So he would always encourage people to pick up an instrument. Especially if it's one that you put down when you were young. Music decorates time, and art decorates space. Nicely said. So that's where it comes from. These are the conditions of the origin scene of our problems. I gave up singing when I was a teenager. My mum said I can sing, but my voice is basic. That's this. Not exceptional. That's this. That's not true. That's a reaction to a natural, free state of mind. It's that state of mind that they are unsettled by, because they were also crushed when they were young in that state. They are imitating the cruelty of their parents, and so on, giving us the point that we saw earlier, that the point of our existence is to end the cycle of all clan beliefs. It's a cycle of injustice. Or mythologically, the family curse. Because so that way of being becomes an object of scorn and condemnation. They would scorn you when you sing, and they would condemn you. And that way of being becomes taboo. There ain't no singing in this house. And the state of mind that accompanied that activity is also forbidden. You can't be that free and open and confident in yourself and seeking your own goals. Not in this fucking house. Every family has that. It's part of being human. And by the way, this is why it's so important to recognize this. If you do not address it, you will do the same thing to your kids, and you will crush your partner and your kids in the same way, because that is your model for caring. It's caring to say, don't sing, people won't like it. Don't use your voice. Don't pursue your goals. That's what you think is what it means to be a big, strong Noah. And that's what you think is what it means to be loving and caring. Therefore, if you do not address it, you will crush others in a similar way, and your relationships will just play out that drama over and over and over and over and over. And then you'll have kids and you'll play it on them. The cycle of injustice continues. Why? Because philosophy is knowing the true nature of reality and love. Ain't no one doing that. So how do we be knowing? How do we know what love is if no one's learning about it from the symposium? Imitation. Imitating the same cruelty that we suffered. Imitation. That's the pathologos. That's the source of all human problems. Where do you think Putin got his image of being a big, strong Noah from? Trump. Why do you think Trump's racist? Maybe his dad was an official, with a high-ranking KKK official, because he was. So I sing for children's parties time to time. Oh, that's nice. Like the dress as the characters show up to birthday parties. Oh. Taught me to be the opposite, like just support people with whatever they do and makes them happy. Right. Now, there'll come a point to which their way of being will be so similar to your origin scene when you were shut down that you won't even know you're doing it, you won't know why you're doing it, but you will still crush someone. Why? Because it's not your choice. You don't have the pathologos, it has you. That's why it's the most powerful force in our world. That's why all genocide, wealth inequality, murder, war is motivated by this one thing, one cause. We don't have it. It's not a slave to our will, but I don't want to crush people. Too fucking bad, you will. Why? Because you don't have it. It has us. That's the power of ignorance. Yeah, you don't want to crush anyone. That's why this book's so good. It's like saying, I don't want to hurt people. Well, you're gonna. I want to help animals. Well, too bad, you can't help animals. But I really want to help sick animals. You can't. Unless you learn veterinary science. I want to be a good parent. You're not gonna be. You're gonna imitate your parents, because where else are you gonna learn it from? Parent school? You will. We all have problems. Until we learn. That's why, as we've said on the board, in 6 different ways, the meaning of life is to learn. And there are 6 different arguments that we looked at on the board today that show us that by definition, the purpose of life is to learn, and the board's not keeping up with my scrolling. To learn. We're here to learn. Okay, I'm going to have to give the board a bit of time to catch up. And here we go. To learn. We had 6 arguments. Learning requires a body. Therefore, if we are embodied, then our purpose is to learn because that's what we're most suited for in this dimension. Our highest functioning in time is understanding. Therefore, understanding requires learning. Therefore, the meaning of life is to reach our highest function. Learning. Justice. If we experience negative things, there must be a learning involved. Otherwise, it will be just pointless suffering and ignorance. That would be torture or injustice. So if there's a just world, then we're here to learn. Reincarnation changes. If there's reincarnation, it has to be different each time, which means it has to be a cause for that difference. That cause is your identity. Therefore, you're here to learn about yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons that are always true, necessarily true, that our purpose is to learn. Physical death means we can only take with us what we learn and what we have nurtured into the soul. It's only learning and the nurturing of that learning into our being that we can take with us. So if we physically die, if there is a purpose, it has to be to learn. And finally, to solve problems in the physical or spiritual world requires the removal of ideas like sin, hell, punishment, and repentance, retribution, and salvation, which is a way of solving problems by inflicting suffering, and therefore to remove that and to, in its place, understand the causes of problems. That requires the dialectic. That's why we're here to learn the dialectic. Therefore, 6 different reasons why our purpose, or the meaning of life, the reason we're reincarnated, is to purify our problems, our false learning, our false images of knowing, our false images of love, the way we crush other people when they are free, whether we like it or not. You will continue to do it, pass on the cycle of family violence, because it's evolutionary. It goes all the way back to caveman times. So you need to do something about it. Otherwise, you will continue it. If you do learn, which is what we're here for, you can purify that, end that cycle, and you can free yourself from the chains of the pathologos that bind you to doing the same thing that was done unto you. So if you don't want to crush anyone, you got to learn how to purify that cause. And secondly, after you've purified and escaped the fate, you can now go on to develop or perfect your destiny. Remove the pathologos, that's the cause of your injustice in relationships and to others and to yourself, most importantly, and perfect a good way of being. That's the dialectic. So you say, hey, I want to care for animals. Learn veterinary science. I want to care for all living and non-living beings. Learn the dialectic. I also want to stop hurting living and non-living beings. Learn the dialectic. Apply it to dream analysis and midwifery. Therefore, the purpose of life is a learning and nurturing of the soul via the art of the dialectic. We call that study philodianoia, the love of understanding. Get yourself someone with a good heart and good head that you can do this with. Love and understanding. Otherwise, it's a love of ignorance. Not doing this isn't neutral. Not doing this is going to further solidify your false images, because you're still living, you're still doing stuff, you're still having intimate relationships, you're still doing kissings. You're still having your boobs being touched. You're still putting energy, love energy, intimate sexual energy, life energy, time energy into something. The question is, do you want to put it into a false image of the self that's the cause of all suffering, or an ignorance, or the true self, which is the cause for excellence, harmony, providence, divine intelligible care, or art? There we go. Now we've defined art. There are some people who say, oh, art's anything. Art could be anything. Throw some spaghetti on a wall and that's art, right? No. Art is specifically this. Art is specifically the use of our knowledge and understanding of a subject to benefit. And the highest art, or the highest providence, is this, which is the meaning of life, the dialectic. Need to read the book during full break. Can't wait. Yeah, well, we're reading it on the stream every day. and it's a banger. Like, you can't put the book down. Like, there are lots of bangers. We started to read the It's All Relative book. So one common false belief in our culture, like tall poppy syndrome, is the belief that there is no truth, everything is relative to opinion. So how can you go on the search for truth and removing the false if you don't believe there is such a thing? So there's a really good book that the same author wrote called Is It All Relative? We started reading it here, but this book is so good that I all the streams have been about this book. But that's a fantastic one to start with. It's a modern dialectic set in a Greek corner cafe. Oh, you mentioned it looked like a Studio Ghibli scene. Oh. Big stretch. So, do you want to spend your life and love energy developing excellence of the self, or pseudo-excellence? The child gladly accepts a clan belief that gives the appearance of excellence, that's pseudo-excellence. But when you are you still there, Sus? Were those your animations that you shared on Discord? I asked you earlier. Maybe you're back to cleaning. So, well, that's the pseudo-excellence, the cause of our problems. And as Sus was saying, I don't want to hurt people. Yeah, I don't want to hurt people anyway. That's why we say it's a moral imperative to learn philosophical midwifery. Because it's removing the false programming that causes our injustice. We could also say it's an ethical imperative, or an outward moving principle of what it means to be good, because we have a civic duty. That's your art on Discord. It's very good. It's very, very good. It's awesome. Very cute too. You drew it with your finger. Oh my goodness. So talented. I'll look at it again. Very cute. It's a little demon girl. I'm watching Demon Slayer, I think it's called. And the main character has a sister who's a demon. And she has one horn. Reminds me of her. Wow. Very cute. Very talented. Just going through them all. Oh, there's a cute one with a hat. Ah, very, very cute. Where can you save up for a tablet? Oh, neat, 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 neat. She's an orc with a bone to pick. Ah. You did that with your finger. That's amazing. Wow. I hope you get a tablet. I can't wait to see if you Demon Slayer is cool. Yeah, I just started watching it. Yeah, so this is the excellence. So the excellence that we are freeing ourselves to participate in would be to create an art, to use those characters or create a universe of characters that represent these metaphysical principles that you're learning about in your reading and you're experiencing for yourself in order to make interesting stories, because this is the archetype of interesting stories. Wow, really, really good. So, not only are you learning can't wait to get a tablet and a laptop. Yeah. So not only are the stories going to be interesting, but they can reflect in your own car too. Oh, how did you go with your job application? Did you hear back? Yeah, but you can also tell the story of your own experience going through the process of learning and removing your false beliefs here by understanding the conditions that made it believable and developing true excellence. You know how they say, write what you know? Well, now you're writing what you know, and you're writing about the most interesting and beneficial things. And if it's true and beneficial, those are the prerequisites for being art. So, and we're attracted to that excellence, artful excellence, even more attraction, and it will inspire people to achieve something similar. That's the significance. So not only are you making excellent art, but if you can use it to portray your own experiences of going through this, which is most meaningful, what you are inspiring people to do is participate in the highest, most meaningful activity. Which is what I've been talking about when people are interested in my music. Can I engage in a dialectic with them? Or when they say, how long have you been playing? That's a question about causes, but what they really want to know is, what's the cause of beauty and harmony? Let's talk about these metaphysical principles. And even I'll share the story of what I have gone through, what it's taken for me to go through the removal of what's blocked me from those principles of beauty and harmony, and what's the joy of experiencing beauty and harmony. As you can too with your art. That's what makes it art, capital A. It has to be beneficial. Which is significant, because one of the things the right-wingers are doing is attacking art. A lot of their ads are like, I think there was an ad that I see on YouTube a lot. It's Chris Helmsworth and maybe Ruffalo talking about, oh, look at this art. It's a banana on a wall. Art is stupid, right? And then Chris Helmsworth eats the banana. Ha 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 ha. Art is dumb. Right? They're going after healthcare. They're going after medicine with that guy with the brainworm. They're attacking understanding. They have all these right-wing grifter intellectuals who are lying to say that education is dumb. But also they're going after art, because art fundamentally benefits. Unless they say, oh, art is nothing. The Greek idea of art. Benefit. To use whatever ability we can participate in Aphrodite and Apollo to direct people into the meaning of life, the dialectic. And here are the, once again, 6 reasons from the last few pages of why the meaning of life is the mastery of the dialectic. Isn't this book good? So you could say this book is itself a demonstration of the very art it's helping us to define. Wow.
Wow, 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 wow.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better. Do a power.
Imagine. I might play that song today, Imagine. Last time I played that Imagine song, a family of... Oh, this is interesting. A demonstration of this very principle. I was playing that John Lennon song, Imagine. Imagine there's no religion. No hell or heaven to kill and die for. And a group of kids, I think they're on vacation, came over and started to antagonize me. Do you play Jesus songs? Play Jesus. They didn't like that song, Imagine There's No Religion. And every member of the family had a role, imitating their own parents. And when the boy tried to reason for himself, they didn't like that at all. And the little 5-year-old was trying to punch me. Just by trying to engage in reason, to encourage their own personal reflection, thinking for themselves. To see that blind belief and the imitation of a knower when they don't know anything doesn't actually help anyone. That was a trial by fire. A whole family clan way of being tied to their ignorance. But I will try again the next day. Jesus. The drive for excellence is the fuel for an inner life. Wow, imagine that. It shapes them and makes them become more real in themselves. More real. Excellence and real. How did you describe to your people the end of all the seeking? When death arrives, all those who are capable of this kind of learning take what has been learned. Here we go, learning and nurture. And what has nurtured them into their next life. Here we go. I didn't pre-read this, I promise. I'm just that good.
The problem is we can't run out of something that they didn't reason themselves into.
So, people who are capable of this, and maybe that's a puzzle, maybe I'm getting too sad that no one's watching or caring because they're just not capable, I don't know. But if you're capable, do it, because you take with you what you've learned and nurtured them onto their next life, into the next life. Whatever is yet to be learned and realized becomes what must be returned to in the former life. Don't do it here, you'll have to face it. Well, next. Man as a whole is a part of this struggle to know thyself. So, man as a whole has a destiny as well, to know thyself. So, the species of mankind is a part of a greater whole in this process to know the self. So there must be a significance for all life coming to know thyself, and there must be a specific role humanity plays, making the species itself worth saving. Not just saving, purifying our pathologos ignorance that can be evolutionarily traced back to caveman days, the rejection of it traced back to our murdering of Socrates, purify all that injustice, and develop our excellence to know the self. The human way of doing so must have a part within a greater whole. It is a cosmic dance of meaning. Wow, life is a cosmic dance of meaning that ends when there is nothing left to learn. And the race of man ends in the state no longer of man, but that to which he has joined himself. Holy fuck. So we've been carrying a question along with our reading. Is there a purpose? We talked about, okay, what happens if we do it? What happens if enough people wake up to the meaning of life being the dialectic, the solving of problems being philosophy, midwifery, dream analysis, and mythology, the 4 applications of the dialectic under Philodinoia? What if we do it? What if we end injustice and murder and inequality and suffering and starvation? And what if we do it? What if we read the book, all of us? We have a system of solving problems, and we solve our main problems, and now we're free. What next? What next for our race? If we don't address it, the Pathologos Party, or the right wing, will put an end to all life. The believers, the religious people, and the fascist right wingers, they're going to end all life. That's the Pathologos, both of them. It ain't spirituality, it ain't politics, it's just the Pathologos. Paul is not spiritual. Trump is not spiritual, is not a politician. What if we stop fucking around and being polite and admit it and do something about it? What next? In other words, is there a excellence for our race to be, an excellence and role for our race to be playing within a greater cosmos, or even multiverse? We've been carrying that for like a few weeks, I think. Now here we have a little bit of a tidbit. The race of man ends. There is an end, or a final goal that our race can reach, when in the state, it's a state of being and mind, no longer of man, but that to which he has joined himself. So there is a joining of a higher state where we level up.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
We change our position and change for the better. I forgot, what was it?
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
Improving for the better. And this is the improvement. We enter a different kind of state. Joining, which is interesting because we've been talking about intelligence itself not being something we carry with us, And we have to remember and carry intention, but a letting go into an open state where we can join with intelligence itself. Intelligence isn't your intelligence. That's why religious people and right-wingers, people who are bound by pathologos-based belief, are not funny and not intelligent. They're not sharing an intelligence themselves. And that's why the best people out there are interested in understanding, interested in addressing causes and principles and preconditions naturally. Because these are the stepping stones to pure intelligence. Pure intelligence is the cause of intelligence and understanding. The self is the precondition for. The open state of being is a precondition for participation in pure intelligence. The purification of false belief is another precondition for the participation. And that's true for everyone, not just the left or the right or the Jews or the Muzzies or the Christies. Everyone. And you'll find the people with the best head and heart are those people who are attracted to that kind of thinking. A sharing in or a joining with intelligence itself. That's why it can be universal. That's why we can have justice. That's why we hate when politicians lie. That's why we recognize the right and the religious people as fascists and oppressors. Because the men get to be popes and priests and clergy, the women don't. That's not universal. That's not a principle. That's bullshit. The billionaires get to eat whatever they want. Everyone else has to fucking starve. That's not true. That's not principle. That's not politics. Anyone who has sexist beliefs or opinions or principles that, or the imitation of principles that don't apply to everyone, isn't a politician, isn't a spiritual person. You're just not. Just like a vet can't say, I can fix a broken leg on a corgi, but not a Labrador. You're not a vet. At best, you're imitating one procedure that you've seen someone do on a corgi, but that's not a vet. I'm gonna care for black cats, but not orange cats. I hate them. I want them all to die. You're not a vet. You'll have your license removed if you do that. Same thing for medicine, same thing for flying a plane. I want to make only the women survive this plane flight, and I'm gonna push all the men out of the plane because I'm the pilot. You will lose your license. I hope. And go to prison, maybe. Yeah, the undoing of religious trauma would be tracing it back to, as we're doing here, tracing it back to its origins historically and the root analogy, seeing them for what they are, but also tracing it back to your early origin scene, because the kinds of religious bullshit that affected you are going to reflect your own individual pathologos from your origin scene and your interrelationship with your parents in that scene. In other words, there had to be something about religion that was believable for you already. But you can solve it. Which is nothing other than the removal of pseudo-excellence and the perfection of true excellence. The drive for excellence. So we've got another way of explaining the meaning of life. Put it on the board. Removal. Is it an image of pseudo-excellence? Clan belief gives the appearance of excellence. Pseudo-excellence. Remove clan belief appearance of pseudo-excellence And now we could say the fulfillment or mastery of excellence, but the word in the text is drive for, so let's use that. What is it in the text? The drive for excellence is the fuel for an inner life, to be more real in themselves. So let's say the drive for excellence. The drive for true excellence. Oh, which we heard earlier in the text, true excellence being to be as immortal as a man can be and true friend of the gods. True, which is after excellence, which is fuel for inner life, becoming real. Real in self. So, removal of the pathologos and the mastery of the self-logos. Know the self, end the cycle of clan beliefs. Fulfill destiny, master fate. Know the self and the nature of reality, surface and eliminate blocks to excellence. They're all pairs, right? Purification and... these are just all different ways of saying purification and perfection. We've got another one. The purification or the removal of the fate or the removal of false beliefs. Another way of saying that is the removal of clan belief appearance of pseudo-excellence and the drive for true excellence, which is a fuel for the inner life and becoming real in self. But we've also got the idea of true excellence earlier. Let's find it. The experience of beauty. This is good on for you because we're talking about the symposium. Are you still there, Sus? This is one for your dating life. This chapter is called The Dating Life of Sus. In the symposium, he starts with love expressing itself in the love of beautiful bodies, hot bods, and in beautiful logos or speeches. Make speeches about that hot bod. Then he adds there's a necessity to see that the beauty in all bodies is the same. So you've nailed it down. You've gone from the one example to the many bodies to the all. Solve the puzzle. Then go on to love those who have beautiful souls. Now you've upgraded, right? We're talking about the purpose of humanity to level up into a new way of being. Well, here we've got a new leveling up within beauty. See, it's reflection all the way through. A leveling up or a hyparxis into a new way of being. That's the leveling up process. So, now you're interested in beautiful souls. Love those beautiful souls and then beget beautiful logos so the person can find in love something good and noble. So now you're loving a beautiful soul and you're sharing the highest logos you've been learning from this kind of stuff as best you can in a way that if they're open to it and receptive to it, they can benefit. They can become more good, more themselves, more divine and noble. He goes on to urge the love of beauty in our cities and customs so that one can see a wider scope of beauty in the quest of love for the quest for beauty. So now you've gone on to say, hey, in the same thing that's helped us develop, we can project or apply in a wider scope to all people. Maybe this principle of removing pseudo-excellence or pathologos beliefs about the self and developing true excellence to be the self and know the self through the dialectic, maybe that can apply for everyone. Maybe we could end all suffering in the world. Well, not suffering in the world, but end all mass injustice and violence and genocide and inequality. Maybe we can apply it to a wider scope. So there's a scope for beauty within our race. These early stages lead to seeing a beauty in different kinds of knowledge. Isn't it neat that we have a kind of knowledge that applies to souls and the state? Surely we can find this knowledge shines forth from the very source of love and the logos. So therefore, if there is a logos or an intelligible structure, understandable paradigm of reality that's also beautiful and so we want to join with it, that can make souls more beautiful and rational, or beautiful and understanding, beautiful and intelligible, can make cities and states more beautiful and rational. We have that same process of going from many examples to the all. So that first stage, one beautiful body, many beautiful bodies. Oh, there is a fundamental principle of all beautiful bodies. All beautiful bodies are beautiful for the same fundamental causal principle. Now I can level up. Now we've seen that there is a beauty that applies to souls, not just souls, but many souls, or the whole city, the whole world, all of humanity. There must be a knowledge. Oh, okay, we've got beauty of souls, beauty of cities, and beauty of knowledges. Different studies, different arts and sciences and things. But if there is an inherent beauty and rationality, Aphrodite and Apollo, that applies to all, it must have a root cause. That root cause is the very source of love and the logos. The source of and what a love and logos-based relationship is therefore seeking. This recognition in this kind of reflection in the symposium prepares the soul for the final vision of beauty itself, experienced also as bliss. There is an intelligible beauty itself that's the cause for beautiful knowledges, cities, and souls. 1, 2, 3. The experience of beauty opens the mind to the profound. For it alone, the mind only can experience it. As much as you might love to squeeze your beloved, it's not a physical thing. It's the mind. The experience is described as superlatives and balanced by negatives in the symposium. So it's beauty itself, but it's not just for you, or it's not individual, or it's not changing. The experience of beauty unfolds the nature of reality as truth. This is the truth. From this state, true excellence can emerge. So now we have this root cause of all beautiful and rational things, Apollo and Aphrodite. By the way, Apollo and Aphrodite lead to Hermes, the dialectic we're here to study, master. And it's from that highest experience of the truth through the mind that you can develop true excellence. That is the crowning experience of the philosopher, brought into being by love and perfected by the logos. So it's that love and logos relationship that brings you to the experience of pure beauty, but that's perfected by the logos. The afterglow. After you have a profoundly intense, blissful experience with your beloved, what do you do after? Have a cigarette, turn out the lights, or talk about it, understand it, perfect it, develop an excellence from it. Same principle. So here is the idea of excellence, or true excellence, developed from truth and reality itself. So this is the exact opposite to crushing freedom, crushing beauty, crushing openness. Because it's too weird and scary to deal with this in our family. We do it this way. Ooh. That's a terrible, gross impression, but it is gross. It sucks. It's disgusting. And it's important to see that this model of beauty from that disgusting experience ain't beautiful. It is gross. It is disgusting. Shine a light on the true disgusting nature of this thing, your parents in that scene, because until you do, you will mistake it as this, blocking you from this. The thing that blocks you from beauty, specifically, you'll take as beauty. See it for what it is, which is why we said to be in the game, you have to be open to, number 5, willing to sacrifice your false beliefs and identities, willing to challenge your dearly held images of significant family members. Be willing to let it go, because it's false and garbage. And it's that true excellence we're here to master, as the perfection, and that you have to at the same time be purifying what gets in the way of that, which is there's pseudo excellence. Neat. Yeah, I think it's neat. I think it's really neat. I think it's neat that we can do it. I think it's neat that we can understand it. I think it's neat that we can go from physical bodies that any moron can see. Anyone can see hot boobs. Hot boobs. But we can go from that obvious beauty to realize, oh, actually, that's kind of not doing it for me anymore, because I recognize that those hot boobs are also, and those hot boobs are also hot. Why? What is it? Oh, there's a single hotness of bodies that applies to all beautiful bodies. Got it. Now I'm interested in that person's soul. I think it's neat that we can level up. I think that it's neat that we can understand every stage of the process. So it's not belief or magical mystery or a secret teaching of the Taoists or the Shaolin monks. No, it's just understandable. It's all understandable all the way up. That's the point. Your phone died for a solid minute. Oh. Blast. I think it's neat. And fun.
Freaks.
And you can be freaks. No. Excellence goes all the way through this book. So lots and lots and lots of excellence. Here we go. Excellence, the drive for excellence is the fuel for our inner life. Okay. Everything that we've learnt. I never went for looks, but personality and how they made me feel. Beauty of the soul. But you can go on to share words, logos, make speeches with that beautiful soul in hopes that you can improve them and perfect them. What's that? Learning. So as we talked about, everything you've been learning here, can you share that with your beloved to improve their soul? Then you can go on to, as you develop as souls together, you can ask the question, hang on a second, is this learning we're going through equally applicable to everyone, even our whole world? Therefore, cities and states can benefit by this use of the logos to purify what's false and perfect the true excellence. And then what about sciences and studies and knowledges? Are there kinds of knowledges, arts that we can master that has an understandable quality? Can we understand how to do art? Can we understand how to do music? Can we understand how to do, anything? Whatever we're interested in? And is there an inherent beauty when it all comes together for us in a whole? So there's a beauty in souls that can be perfected, a beauty in cities and states that can be perfected, and a beauty in knowledges and arts that can be perfected, leading you to the question together, well, what's the cause of the beauty and intelligibility, the love and logos, the beauty and rationality of all of these things? Apollo and Aphrodite. Apollo, harmony, rationality. Aphrodite, beauty. What's the cause of it in souls, cities, and knowledges? There must be a source. That's pure being. That can only be experienced by the mind turning around to know itself as pure mind. And because you've got there through the development of this logos and love, you can understand it. And because you've had to purify any fears about it and purify any false images of yourself that you might be afraid of losing, you can have that experience, stay in it, endure it. And as we said earlier, the more that you can endure, the more that you can stay in that experience of beauty, the more intelligent, providential you become. Here we go. To the degree one is able to endure that divine luminosity, to that degree one is there is a corresponding profound depth or shallowness in your way of being. In that encounter, you realize that what blocked you from that more profound experience was your own fear, your fear that yourself would be extinguished in that awesome and powerful presence of luminosity. But you've been developing all along the way a purification from identifying with that false belief, from that early scene when you were crushed by your parents. It's not you. You believed it and got an identity and a way of being to keep the bullshit of the family clan beliefs and ignorance. But you're removing that. So your fear of losing yourself isn't going to be there because you know you're not that self. You're not an image. You're eternity. And the cause of eternity. Thyself. Allowing you, because you've been developing in that way with your beloved as souls, as you encounter that most blissful experience, you can stay in it, you can endure it, develop a higher way of being, and reflect on it after the experience, logos on pure beauty, to develop true excellence, to reach even the cause of that. That's the self. That's your purpose, to know the self. Therefore, love and logo. So any tradition that is missing those, either those loving the profound experiences of beauty and that we love. So religion doesn't have those experiences. Eastern spirituality sometimes talks about it in yogas. And missing the logos. Oh, there goes the Eastern spiritual traditions. They don't have a logos. So anything that misses either love and logos ain't a spiritual tradition. This is, therefore, the paradigm that all other spiritual traditions are taking bits and pieces of, or are distortions of. Equally so, politicians. Remember that stage before you reached the beauty of the pure beauty itself, where you were realizing that same logos that you've been developing applies to cities and states? Yeah. Ever met a politician that got that? I haven't. Therefore, our ethical responsibility to go this as good citizens, so we can demand that level of understanding and insight from every single fucking politician. Otherwise, you're just not qualified. And what happens if you have unqualified people? They are, again, it's not knowing isn't neutral. You either have the truth or you're carrying an image of the truth. They still think they know shit. They still think they should have the money and the power. They will play out the injustice and violence of their own personal pathologos on a global scale. Thus, capitalism, thus genocide, thus Nazis, thus wealth inequalities, thus the destruction of our environment. And the list goes on. These are all the implications of us not doing this. In other words, we are playing out in our reincarnation the negative effects of us not having gone through this process. All of us here on this planet, all 8 billion of us, therefore, are here for the same reason, to do it. Otherwise, all life on Earth ends. Necessarily, by definition, not opinion, not belief. Definitionally. But if we do it, we remove the image or appearance of excellence motivating Netanyahu and Trump and everyone else, all kings and clergy and all parents, then we remove the pseudo-excellence. We are free to go through that process that we love to do anyway. We love this book. We love LeBron James. We love Tom Brady or whoever is the guy who does the football now. We admire excellence and it inspires us to be excellence ourselves. And how does that excellence end? Well, it ends with our whole race recognizing itself as a whole, the whole of mankind being itself a part within a greater whole within this process to know the self. It's a cosmic dance of meaning that ends when there's nothing left to learn. And the race of man ends in that state that is no longer man, but it has joined with. There is a leveling up or an evolution into a higher state of being that we will join, that you are not qualified for, as politicians and clergy are not qualified for, until you become like it. You can't reach a level of good if you're not good. We got that from why there's no such thing as the devil and evil. Because if the higher metaphysical realities are good, the idea of the good and the good self, you can't be evil. It's not the same. It doesn't fit there. It has to go down. Reincarnate. So it can't be a cosmic force of evil and the devil. So gone. Metaphysically, it can't be such a thing. Equally so, you're going to get, if you're a genocider or a capitalist or anything like that, do you think you're going to be enter a higher realm of justice or a higher state of being? Of course not. So if we want to fulfill our purpose as mankind, our true excellence, we better get to work. In not being a Democrat and saying, oh, let's just sit back and watch the fascists take over because I'm getting my APAC money. Fuck off, Pelosi and Democrats. Get to work in removing the root causes of the injustice and tyranny, this pathologos belief. Recognize there is no such fucking thing as a right-wing political party. It's antithetical by definition because it lacks understanding and knowledge. It does not act for the benefit of all. It's just the pathologos party, as is all religions because it's all belief-based by definition. So we can get to work in removing these false images. But I'm like Jesus. No, you're not. You're copying Paul. But I'm like the Pope. Yeah, pseudo-excellence. It's like every MAGA person. I'm like Trump. Imitation of pseudo-excellence in a clan belief. If we do that, we're able to solve problems, put an end to war and suffering and injustice. But we can also develop our true excellence. That drive for excellence is the fuel for an inner life where we become more real in ourselves. It becomes the root force in love and logos-based relationships that we can culminate in our own individual relationships as well. Allowing us to, as a race, if we embrace it, upgrade, level up, join a way of being or a state of mind or a state of being where we are no longer man, but we have joined that which we have been seeking. As we become more blissful in our joining with experiences of beauty in our loving relationships, as we become more metaphysically incarnated in a good way, as we become like the idea of the good ourselves, as we become more intelligent, when we become like intelligence itself, so we can share in that higher dimension, so too, mankind can level up into a higher state so long as we become more like it. The principle of likeness. Remember, whole, part, same, different, like, unlike, one of those primary 12 terms of rationality or the logos. And it's likeness that's the root principle of analogy. Socrates is like his teacher. Here's our Dharma. As Socrates is like Diotima. So you can be the teacher if you're a woman. Diotima was the dialectician to Socrates, but then Socrates can go on and teach someone else. Principle of likeness. Socrates is now like Diotima. And Socrates students, you, learning from Socrates here in this book, now become like Diotima. Upgrading, leveling up, becoming like the other extreme, from one extreme to another, from ignorance to wisdom. And we're also doing that as a human race. And to that, Jesus says, "Well said, Socrates. Well said. I appreciate those words, and they have come from no other source than the Logos." Well said indeed, Socrates. Well said. And well said, everybody. And well said to you all. I don't know. Thanks for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. How cool is that? How neat is it that we can understand those things? I encourage you to go out and challenge the pseudo-excellence voice of that origin scene that has crushed your natural expression of your own true self and your joy and freedom and openness, and look for the logos to follow in your lives and embrace true excellence. Embrace your openness, naturalness, and true excellence, and your drive for excellence that allows you to be your true self and awaken the inner life. But also, as you embrace the true inner nature of yourself, you will inspire others to do the same. That's the seeking of true excellence. That's where the fun's at, because
Where's the joy? Where's the childlike wonder?
that's where the joy, whimsy, and childlike wonder dude is. And it's also our purpose, individually and as a whole. Wow, lots of fun. So, be the self. Express the self, have fun being the excellence of self, and as you do that, you'll find yourself inspiring others to do the same. And isn't that where the fun is? Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me in chat and sharing your thoughts and your reflections and your art. Wonderful art. And if you want to see that wonderful art, you can join the Discord. Link below. There's also a link to the text. You can follow on Twitch or YouTube. And if you want to help support the channel, you can donate and buy me a coffee below that I'm going to put towards a better webcam. So, thank you once again. And I'll see you in the next. The greater, the more excellent, the more profound, the more self, one. See you in the next one.